You look at your screen, thinking you're completely in control. But peel back the glass, and there is a hidden system operating in the background, locking onto your behavior like a digital crosshair. Subject 1 just mentioned out loud, "I need to buy some new running shoes." Subject 2 simply watched a single short video about makeup. And Subject 3 was just mindlessly scrolling in the dark at 2 a.m. The very next morning, all 3 of their phones were flooded with exact ads for those specific things. So is your phone secretly listening to your conversations? No. It is actually doing something much more dangerous than that. Here is the shocking truth. Your phone isn't secretly recording your conversations 24/7. To figure out exactly who you are and what you want, it doesn't even need to hear your voice. Because your phone is constantly reading your actions. Every single time you touch the glass, the touchscreen's capacitive sensor detects the absolute micro movements of your finger. Every time you scroll, your operating system records the exact time and speed of every single gesture. When you stop, the system measures exactly how many milliseconds the screen stayed completely static. When you are about to tap, but your finger hovers over the screen for a split second, that tiny pause becomes a tracked touch event and a massive signal. If you tap instantly, that forms one behavioral pattern. If you pause slightly before tapping, that forms a different pattern. That tiny difference is logged by the system as hesitation. All of this is raw data, and the apps on your phone are continuously collecting it in the background. This data feeds directly into the apps you use every single day. Social media apps, shopping apps, video platforms like Instagram or YouTube. Because when you are inside them, that specific app has total control over what is happening on your screen. Let's get one thing totally clear. Your phone isn't acting like a rogue spy. These are the exact same apps that you installed yourself and willingly gave permissions to. Meaning, they aren't hiding in the shadows. They are pulling your data right in front of your eyes. But the real question is, how do these apps know so much about your life just by watching you scroll? Here is exactly what they are watching. Where you stop, how aggressively you swipe, what you look at twice, when you are most vulnerable, how long you stay trapped. These might seem like tiny details to you, but to the machine, these are massive psychological signals. This is where the real game begins. It's not just one evil company doing this. Every major app operates this way. Tracking used to happen through basic browser cookies, but now the tracking is hard-coded directly inside the apps themselves, because you spend way more of your life inside apps than on web browsers. And the most interesting part, you don't even need to type a single search query to be targeted. Subject 1 never actually searched for running shoes. Instead, he watched fitness videos, paused on short clips that featured sneakers, zoomed in on product images, scrolled through sports content late into the night. The system doesn't just randomly guess he's gonna buy shoes. It builds a web of options: shoes, track pants, sports gear. Then it actively tests you, monitoring which option you pause on the longest. Whichever option grabs the most of your attention wins the auction. And that is exactly how your final product is selected. In the tech world, this loop is called prediction, testing, optimization. First comes prediction. This user is showing an invisible interest in sports gear. Then comes testing. The system quietly shows him different things: shoes, track pants, accessories. Then comes optimization. That winning item is refined over and over until it's presented with a better option, a better price, and perfectly calculated timing. In the end, it feels like it was entirely your decision.
but the invisible process had already manipulated you into making it work. Subject 1 isn't alone. Subject 2 never typed a search for makeup. She simply started lingering a fraction of a second longer on beauty videos. Subject 3 didn't plan on buying anything at all, but his late-night scrolling patterns told the system his mental resistance was completely down. All three of them thought, wow, what a creepy coincidence. But the dark truth is, all three had already given the machine their hidden signals. They were completely different people, but trapped inside the exact same system. Their signals were just different, and the system simply pushed them at the exact right time.
So, where does all this invisible data actually go? Apps have built-in chunks of code, known as tracking SDKs. This extraction process runs constantly in the background, completely invisible to you. These SDKs beam your behavioral data directly to massive servers, which then feed that data straight into global advertising platforms. And many different platforms share these exact same advertising networks. That is why a tiny interest you show inside one app suddenly haunts you as an aggressive ad on a completely different app. Why do you think all these incredible apps are entirely free? Because the actual product being harvested and sold is your attention. These companies weaponize your own behavior against you, designing feeds so you literally cannot stop scrolling, forcing you to stop on their ads. One single signal tells them almost nothing, but when millions of these micro-signals combine, the system understands you perfectly. Where you stopped to look, what exact item you went back to check again, when your brain was the most active. The system understands the exact difference between you just casually window shopping or seriously considering buying. And then comes the critical moment, when you finally stop comparing and you get incredibly close to making a decision. That is the exact moment the system pulls the trigger and pushes the ad. Now the brands step in, paying massive amounts of money to run these targeted ads. The system dictates the entire game, deciding exactly which user gets which product at what precise psychological moment. First, you see a normal ad, then a slightly better option, then a targeted discount. Then comes the fake urgency, only 2 left in stock. None of this is a coincidence. It is hyper-calculated timing, designed so you don't even have time to think. You just decide to buy. Subject 1 thought, my phone must have heard me talking. But in reality, he had already handed over all of his signals without saying a single word. Your phone is not listening to you. It is reading you. And the more you use it, the easier it becomes for the machine to predict your next move. Sometimes, it knows what you want even before you do. You just uncovered the unseen mechanics of your everyday tech. Welcome to Hidden Feed.